Welcome to the Jerry Bovino Show. And now, here's Jerry.
Welcome back. We have an exceptional, extraordinary show today. An Aspen legend, Dick Butera. Everybody in town knows Dick. Dick, we're thrilled to have you on the show. Dick is a wonderful raconteur with a many-decade history of experience in Aspen. So start with the very beginning. For tourists who are here who don't know you, Dick, you're originally from Philly?
Philadelphia,
Tell us the story.
Well, I came here in 1965 to ski. And I went down to Pomeroy to get my skis. I don't know if it was called Pomeroy then. So I got my skis and my boots, and I went to give him a credit card, and he said, "You don't need to give me anything. When you're done with the skis, come back." And I thought,
what kind of place is this?
This place is different. And then I came every year for a month, and then in 1982 I moved here permanently, and I've had 33 or 4 extraordinary years living in Aspen.
Yeah, well, before the show, Dick and I were just talking, and it's such a unique community here, and the people make the community. It's a beautiful place, but we get to pal out with some of the most interesting people in the world, and that's not synonymous necessarily with wealthy. Some of the people we meet don't have a dime, but they're great.
Yeah. Well, the gondola and the chairlifts over the years have been the favorite place to be, because you would ride up with all kinds of different people. I mean, it didn't have to be Jack Nicholson or a billionaire. It was more fun to be going up with locals, and you know, that's the melting pot, the gondola.
Yeah, and some people lament. They say we're losing that classless society that we have, but I don't think we really. I mean, I'm friends with everybody. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says it's changed. Well, it's changed. The sewer system works better. The water's cleaner. The air's cleaner.
I always told people we're a victim of our own success.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a place that's just like it was 40 years ago, go to Parachute. It probably hasn't changed much, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, we're different in a way because everybody wants to be here. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
We want to be here too. So you went to school in Philly?
I went to Penn. I was a Wharton graduate. And yeah, my business was in all over the country. I was in recreational real estate, Hilton Head, Hawaii, Florida, Michigan, and then I used to toy around in the radio business in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show also that you had Channel 16 here.
I started it here.
In Aspen. How many years? Tell us the story of Channel 16.
Well, you know, we have this whole very big, strong left-wing bent here in our philosophy of our politicians, our newspapers. So I thought, I'm gonna start a TV station and have a right-wing bent, a Rush Limbaugh bent. And anyway, it was kind of fun, but it was difficult. I started Good Morning Aspen, and we had a camera live at the top of Ajax, and we would have a reporter up there telling you the conditions of the snow, and then we had a female and a male host, and we interviewed people like you're doing, and it was great, except that half my people never showed up for work.
Right, without mentioning any names, there was one sort of attractive blonde with beautiful, piercing blue eyes who basically accused everybody she ever worked with sexual harassment.
Yeah, and I was the only guy that never harassed her or wanted to.
But you got sued anyway. It's a public record. What can you do? Yeah. So what year was that TV station? In the 90s, late 90s maybe?
No, I think it was around 90, 91, 92.
Yeah, because the interesting thing, most people don't know, the GrassRoots TV right here is the oldest continually running community-run station in the United States.
Yeah.
And you know, started out with Richie Cohn and all those guys back in the 70s doing the Edge of Ajax soap opera, and we've just been around forever.
You were tough competition.
We're tough, exactly. All right, so tell us now, your first business deal in Aspen was?
I bought the Aspen Club. And these are all accidents.
That was in '82. When was the Aspen Club built? The original
1978. It's an unbelievable story, as is a lot of these history of these buildings in Aspen. But it was a guy named Bob Goldsamp, who was the red-hot wizard of Wall Street. He started Humana, which is today Humana, healthcare.
Huge.
And he was, made all this money, and he came to Aspen and built a 60,000 square foot all sports club when Ute Avenue was a dirt road, and there were barely 5,000 people here. It was the largest club ever built in America. So he failed, of course, but I met him by accident here, and then I saw him on the corner in New York at 1 o'clock in the morning and took a walk with him, and he had lost all his money because of a cocaine habit. And he explained to me—
I've never heard that in Aspen before. That must have been the first guy.
I didn't know much about cocaine, but he explained to me how he got the habit, how he got rid of the habit, but also how he lost all his money. And the only thing I have left is a club in Aspen. I said, really? What are you going to do with that? Because I had sold all my businesses in Philadelphia and I wanted to move here. And I was married to a professional tennis player, which would be perfect for
That was
her.
Julie Anthony.
Yeah. So
How long were you married to Julie?
I don't want to remember.
Okay.
But anyway, we made a deal. I was walking the streets of New York at 1 o'clock in the morning, basically made a deal. And I bought the club from him, and we arrived here in September of 1982. And the club was a disaster because they were selling cocaine and drugs, and it was really a drug center. And all the equipment was rusty, and it was terrible. So we started to rebuild it. In 5 years, we were ranked #1 by every magazine in the country as the #1 club in America. And then everybody copied us. All these multi-sport clubs you see now, LA Sports.
With tennis, the pool, the workout.
Yeah, and then we did physical therapy in the club, which was something nobody had ever done. We had Pilates. We had you know, the 10 best squash players in the world came every year. And then we put on what was called the Aspen Tennis Festival for 3 years. And that was really important because Aspen was in bad shape. 82, 83, 84, 85, cocaine, drug dealers, the slow lifts. And the town was heading down.
It was.
bad.
I remember for the tourists who were watching back in the early 80s, if you went to dinner at a restaurant, about 50% of the time at the end of dinner, they'd bring out this like chrome platter with lines of cocaine for dessert.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember the old Parlor car? I mean, that was like drug. More drugs went through there than Bristol Myers and Squibb.
Well, yeah, and I didn't know much about that stuff because I'm a generation or two later than all that. But I learned by looking at all these crazy things going on.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my wife, I think we've made a mistake. This place is nuts. But the tennis festival, we had McEnroe and Borg and the top 10 players. We had Billie Jean and all the top 10 women, and Bill Cosby and Barbra Streisand, celebrities. So it really got on national television. We were on ABC Wide World of Sports for 2 hours the third year. Interestingly enough, before we went live, we had Howard Cosell and Arthur Ashe as our commentators.
Wow.
And Billie Jean. Billie Jean was my partner for many years. And they objected to all the local banners around the tennis court, you know, Joe's Pizza and all that. And the guy from ABC that came out of the truck, who was the technician, to ask me to take the banners down, was a guy named Bob Iger. Bob Iger is CEO of Disney today. Pretty amazing.
That's
he was
pretty amazing.
He was a technician at the Aspen Tennis Festival, and now he's the head of the largest entertainment company in the world. Great guy. Great guy.
Yeah. Does he still have a presence? Does he have a house here?
No, they visit. His wife Willow was a real close friend of mine, and so the tennis festival, I think, had a lot to do with getting people in Aspen to believe that we could be the real Aspen that we used to be, not a cocaine headquarters, because our reputation around the country was getting bad.
It was getting bad, but it was always, Aspen was always a center, even dating back to the Pepke eras of mind, body, and spirit. People wanted to be healthy here, which is why the Aspen Club was a perfect fit at that time.
Yeah, we had Dr. Whitcomb, Barry Mink. We had 5 doctors on our staff. And we did a lot of revolutionary things for people's health.
So you want to update everybody on what's happened? What year did you sell the Aspen Club?
Oh, I'm so bad on years. I think Michael Fox.
Michael bought it from you.
Michael's father and I were partners in Philadelphia for many years. He's one of my dearest friends. And I saw Michael when he was a baby. 20, 30 years later, he bought the club from me. I was glad to get rid of it because I had had enough. And then Michael has dreams, you know, big dreams of a young man they're under construction,
Yeah,
changing
he's a
the whole
smart guy,
property.
Stanford guy.
Oh, yeah, it's a fantastic family.
Yeah, and they're going to do a nice job here with these townhomes. I'm glad it got approved because the club needs to be refurbished.
Yeah.
I mean, in this town, that should be 6 stars, 6 diamonds.
Took him 2 years to get approval.
I know. Well, it's typical.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's what we're going to do. Let's hold that thought for a minute. We're going to take a short break to recognize the underwriters who very generously support us here at Grassroots Television. U.S. Trust, the premium name in private wealth management. Bovino Law Firm, David Bovino and Lauren Roberts. RareColoredDiamonds.com, Harold Siegel. Bishop Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. And Silver Peak Apothecary. It's the holidays, to get high, but responsibly. When we come back, we've got the best raconteur in Aspen. Going to tell you the story about the plane crash that led to saving the Jerome. We're coming right back.
Support for this Grassroots community television program comes from U.S. Trust. From wealth structuring to investment management, U.S. Trust's global perspective, unique team approach, fiduciary platform, and more than 200 years of experience provide for the kind of insights, solutions, and expertise that have a worth all their own.
Bovino Law Firm, a boutique law firm specializing in complex litigation, real estate, leasing, and sales, corporate organization, trust, and estates. Admitted in Colorado, California, and New York. David Bovino and Summer Woodson at 970-925-4445 or www.bovinolaw.com.
Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, serving Aspen and Vail for over 40 years. Shoe covers, name tags, IDs. Let Bishop worry about your heating, plumbing, and air conditioning issues so that you don't have to. Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, 925-8610.
RareColoredDiamonds.com is an investment firm specializing in investment quality diamonds. Colored diamonds can be an excellent investment that does extremely well during times of inflation and economic uncertainty. Now is the time to consider colored diamonds as a strong alternative investment. RareColoredDiamonds.com.
Here at Zeno, we believe that life is simple. Good friends, good fun, and good food. Come join us for a meal at the base of Ajax, our town's stunning mountain playground. Make yourself at home and reconnect with the simplicity of beautiful food and beautiful views. Enjoy an abundance of fresh, locally farmed vegetables, meats, and cheeses, and of course, a well-deserved libation or two. We serve lunch from noon to 3 p.m., daily après-ski specials from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., and dinner from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Choose between table or bar seating in our dining room or on our outdoor patio. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Foursquare.
Silver Peak Apothecary is the first cannabis retail store in the city of Aspen, offering a fine selection of bud, flower, and infused cannabis products, as well as accoutrements from glassware, oils, soaps, along with books, t-shirts, and educational material. Silver Peak Apothecary is located at 520 East Cooper Avenue in downtown Aspen and is open daily from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. For more information, visit us on the web at www.silverpeakapothecary.com or call 970-925-4372.
Jerry Bovino back with an Aspen legend, Dick Butera, extremely kind to share his cornucopic knowledge of Aspen with us today. A very nice guy also. If you see Dick on the street, make sure you say hello. We wouldn't have half of Aspen the way it is if it weren't for his belief in us and investment and good management. So let's go right to the Hotel Jerome now, the plane crash.
Well, we at the Aspen Club, we used to take care of the big executives in America would come here for 1 week. We would analyze all their health problems, all their issues, and give them a program, and they would leave.
And that's common now, but it wasn't common then.
We
you
were
guys
first.
defined that genre.
We were the first in the country to do it, and we had 5 doctors on our staff. So one of the guys that was going through the program said to my wife at the time, "Where's your husband? He's in New York." "Well, he's coming back Friday." "Oh, he can come back on my plane." So I went to Teterboro, and I had a ride home on a private airplane. And we couldn't get in on Friday night because of the snow, so we landed in Omaha. And I was with my friend David Gilmore. He and I started Fiji Water together. And I remember we're having a steak in Omaha.
Didn't the Resnicks own Fiji Water?
No, we sold it to them.
Okay.
So I was looking down the bar and I saw our pilots doing shots at tequila, and I said to David, I don't think we're in good shape tomorrow with these pilots. I don't think they're supposed to be doing shots at tequila.
They really
anyway,
weren't.
we took off the next morning and we came into land, and the road used to be closer to the runway than it is now.
They moved it into ASC, you're talking about.
Yeah.
What time of year was that?
It was snowing. It was, I don't know, in the middle of the winter.
Okay.
But the pilot came in and he missed the runway, so he took off and went up. And we circled, and I remember saying to David, we're not supposed to be over Snowmass. This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
Well, the second time we came in for a landing, he was going to hit the road. So he floored it, and we hit the runway at 240 miles an hour and blew the whole left wheel section off. Did a couple whirlies, went 1,000 feet this way, and then 2,000 feet across the field.
And everybody wasn't killed. That's amazing.
And we hit a snowbank and didn't explode. So they pulled the door open with the fire engines and all this.
What year was that?
This was '84. So there was a guy there, the man's name was Jim McManus, that owned the plane. He watched us whirly down.
He was not on the plane, though.
No, he was watching. And so they opened the door, and I looked up, and I saw a guy that looked like a Mick Manus with a red face, and I introduced myself. And of course, he was shook up, and we all were, and we went home. I took him back to my house, and we were sitting in the living room, and I saw his hand shaking, so I went into the bedroom, and I wrote on a yellow pad, I have no injuries, no psychological damage. And I said, Jim, here.
I'm not going to sue you, relax.
I said, the wrong guy's hands are shaking. So that bonded us. And we ended up going down to the Jerome Bar, the J Bar, because the hotel was boarded up except for the bar. It was painted blue, and every window was boarded up. It was condemned. So we had a beer or two, and I was telling him how much I loved Aspen and how great the place was. And he said, well, if you love it that much, how can you let this place go like this?
How did it get so bad?
John Gilmore, a wonderful guy, owned it and had plans to refurbish it and never could get the money. And nobody had spent a dime on it in 45 years. All the joists were rotted out. They were growing pot on the roof.
The basement was flooded. I remember the old joint. It was horrible.
Brutal. So I remember saying to him, I'm not rich enough or dumb enough to try this.
Right.
But he kept pressing me. He went back to Connecticut and kept calling me saying, let you and I do it together. So one day I said, okay, we'll do it. And we gutted the whole building. 6 months and 2 weeks we finished. We had a grand opening. The whole town came. It was amazing. And then I learned all the stories about the Jerome from all the old timers, because they would come in during construction. We were under construction 24 hours a day, and because I had to get it done by the end of the year for tax credits. And so it looked exactly like it looks now when we finished. It was amazing, and the whole town everybody was so excited, except for Pussy Pepke, because Pussy Pepke had the building painted white with blue eyebrows.
And it looked horrible white. I hated that.
Herbert Beyer was her architect, and he did it.
But it was all peeling the paint. It was horrible.
Yeah, but we took all the white paint off and got the original brick back, and it upset her so much that she wouldn't come to the opening, and she didn't talk to me for 2 years because it was Herbert Beyer's work that we took apart. Anyway, it was a great time, and the Jerome came back to life, and now it's very vibrant.
Was it financially successful right away after it was refurbished?
I have one loss in the real estate business in 50 years, and it's the Jerome.
Why? Why? In hindsight, why
hotel
was it?
business in Aspen basically doesn't work. Everybody has a good time paying big prices and buying them and going to city council and getting hotels approved, but they don't work because
It's 6 months.
You're only open 190 days a year.
Right.
But the bank charges interest 365 days a year. The employees, you can't lay them off because you have to retrain everybody. So it mathematically doesn't work.
Okay, it's one of those things where people buy it as almost like a trophy property, or it's a hobby, or I just bought the Jerome, and he tells his friends in Oklahoma or whatever.
Exactly. That's what's happened to the Jerome now. A wonderful guy from Texas bought it for $75 million. And a wonderful guy from Thailand bought the St. Regis, but there's no way they can make a return on their investment. Now the Crowns own the Little Nell, and that's a real serious business with them, obviously. Speaking of the Crowns, I think the greatest thing that's ever happened to Aspen is not the Pepkes, I think it's the Crowns.
The Crowns have invested a lot of time and
saved
effort
Aspen.
and money
They
In
have
Aspen.
saved Aspen. Lester Crown's one of the great gentlemen you'll ever meet in your life. His son Jim runs everything. And
Ski-Co, do they make money on Ski-Co or not?
I think it's just like the hotel business, you
Right.
know, and the Crown families have dedicated themselves to Aspen. And that's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to this town.
Well, we're fortunate that there's still people who love Aspen who want to put some time and money behind it.
Yeah.
Because you're right, a lot of these businesses are just not economic.
No.
I mean, and the same is true with these retail stores. They're paying $150 or $200 a foot rent, and they're open for like half the year. How are you going to make it?
1 and 1 or 2 where I came from.
I know, it doesn't work out. So is there like a craziest Aspen story you have? Everybody has some kind of crazy
Oh my God, my
Aspen
Hunter
story.
Thompson stories.
Well, tell us one.
I have to tell you, it's funny with him. We took, when we renovated the Jerome, his picture running for sheriff was at the bar. And when I took it down, he was very upset. And you never knew each day which Hunter you were going to have to deal with.
At the J Bar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
because
J
he'd
Bar.
be bouncing off the wall some
Yeah.
days.
So when we put the building back together again, I put his picture back up, and then I was his friend, and he used to come to the bar every day. And he would call me up with the craziest things ever. But I can remember Ed Bradley, God rest his soul, lived here.
I used to ride the gondola with him. What a nice guy he was.
I did
Really nice guy.
his eulogy in New York.
Wow.
We became very, very close friends. But Ed used to like to cook. So down at his house in Woody Creek, and he had 6 or 8 of us, and he was cooking. And they served the salad, and the phone rang, and it was Hunter. Hunter lived up the road in Woody Creek. And Ed said, okay, come on over. So Hunter arrives at Ed Bradley's house with a white bag, a bottle of Chivas Regal in this hand, and a joint in his mouth. Okay, and I go, oh my God.
This is going to be interesting.
And
right?
he grunts. He doesn't really talk very much. Well, we all sat down to eat our salad, and Hunter went over, emptied the bag out. He had Chanel shaving cream, a Chanel razor, more pot and stuff, and white towels. So he put the white towels under the hot water and went over, and Ed was eating his salad, and he put the hot towels on Ed's head. So nobody said a word, because Ed knew him. Ed was his best friend, and he knew him well. But he said, whatever he's up to. He took the hot towels off, covered it with shaving cream, and shaved Ed's head. And this is before Michael Jordan had a bald head. Ed was on 60 Minutes for 7 or 8 weeks with no hair.
Bald head.
So when he got all done, Ed let him shave him and never said a word. Then he said, Dick, take our picture. And I took a picture of the 2 of them, and he walked out and went home. And this is the kind of stuff he did every day.
Was Hunter Thompson, do you think, a product of his times? Would he be as relevant today as he was 30 years ago?
No.
No, he wouldn't be. I agree with that.
No.
He was right at the right place at the right time with his
Yeah.
innovative gonzo journalism, and he caught everybody's attention. But today, he might be just seen as like a nutcase.
Yeah, I agree.
What? So, you have a young son. I wanted to talk to you
Miles?
about Miles. Say hello to Miles. Hi, Miles. He'll be watching. What's it like there's a lot of people that we know that you go have a second family or have a young child. What's it like for you at a different stage in your life to have the privilege of raising a new child? I wanted to talk about that.
Wow.
It almost makes you want to cry, right? Because the responsibility. And I know you love your son. We were sitting with him. He's a great kid, really smart kid.
Miles is the best thing that's ever happened.
Really? Well, tell us about it. Tell us the whole story of what, because there's guys out here just, our age who have young families and they want to know what to expect.
Yeah. Well, I was married to Sophie Harvey, and she decided she wanted to have a child. I'm pretty old, and I thought about it, and I thought, when he's playing soccer at the middle school, I'll be on my walker and I can go over and watch him play. So that'll give me something to do. That's how I made a joke about it. But I thought it'd be a wonderful thing at my age to have another child, because I had 5 kids, and they're all 50.
They're all grown, right?
Yeah. So, and I had a tragedy. I lost a daughter. So Miles seemed like a replacement. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Believe me, I understood that it might be a poignant moment in your life because you're sort of reflecting on what you're doing now, which is not everybody gets that privilege, and that's the word.
Yeah, he's a very special guy. We spend 24/7 together.
Does he listen to you? Because most of us as parents, we want to give our kids advice. Now, if I give advice, I'll say, if I meet some young person in town and I give advice, they listen to me like I really know what I'm talking about. But a lot of times when we were younger, you give your kids advice, but they don't listen.
Yeah.
And does Miles listen? Do you think he knows?
He's the most amazing listener, and everybody in town knows him. Everybody knows he's special. I'm prejudiced, of course, but he's way above his years. I mean, just yesterday, I have to play football with him every day because he had a bad experience with football here. And so he told me when the experience was over, we're going to play every day, Dad, until next season, and then I'll be so good they'll have to play me. So yesterday I said to him when we got done our little practice, I said, Miles, you seem to really want to do this football. What motivated you to do this? And he said, rejection, Dad. I was rejected.
Powerful motivator, isn't it?
10 years old.
It's a powerful motivator.
So we play every day.
It's amazing. And I think the worst teacher is success. Okay?
Yeah.
The worst teacher is acceptance. I remember I had 2 things of rejection in my life that were, I mean, I probably had a million, but those 2 stood out in my mind. When I was 17, my girlfriend Marlene Scharf dumped me right before my organic chemistry test. And I was devastated.
Did you flunk?
I said, no, I did okay because my mother said, you got to go to medical school, just study this stuff. But I remember I was devastated, and I said, why doesn't she love me? And my mother said, I don't know why she doesn't love you. Whatever it is, there'll be another girl. I got a better girl. But the second thing was I applied to a fraternity in college, and I didn't get in, okay? Which was devastating because all my friends were in that fraternity.
Yeah.
It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because I got into a different one, and then I wound up being a founder of the American Society of Retina Surgeons. It's the biggest organization in the world, thousands of retina surgeons.
Wow.
And they wanted to make it exclusive at the time. This is 30-something years ago. And I said, no, if they're qualified, if they've met the criteria, if they have the training, if they just do retina surgery, we're going to take them, because I was rejected from that fraternity when I was 17 years old, and I'll never forget that.
Well, it's amazing you would bring this up because Miles has had this perfect Aspen life. A full-time dad, a great mom, Aspen Country Day School, Aspen, he's a great skier. Everything has been perfect, and I worried about that. He got rejected at football this year badly, and it crushed him. It broke his heart, but it didn't break his spirit. So
that will serve him well later in life.
Yeah, and I thought, well, at first I was upset. And then I thought, you know what? He needs a loss. He needs this to happen. 3 weeks later, we have a house in Mexico, and the largest hurricane in the history of the world hit our house. So he lost his home, his cat, and his best friend, because the maid daughter's his best friend, had to go through this horrible experience. So he had 2 bad things happen, and you know what? Both of them have been fantastic for him.
Right. You can turn those negatives into positives.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, most business people will tell you if you never had a failure, you're not really qualified to do the next deal.
Absolutely.
Because after a while, you start, and I've had this happen with myself, you believe your own press.
Yeah.
You're doing so well that you say, oh, this is easy. And then you get smacked in the head. Did you know Lester Crane? Lester was my neighbor up on Red Mountain, really nice guy. He was one of the founders of AutoZone with Pitt Hyde and those guys, and a very successful guy. And he tells this story about one time they had a catfish. They were going to get into catfish business, and it was great. And they were going to have a string of catfish restaurants, and they invested millions of dollars in this thing. And at the end of the day, they all went out to the catfish plant where they were farming them, and some farmer had released some pesticides, and there were like 400 million dead catfish floating up. And he said, what did we know about the catfish business,
Yeah.
It was a good learning for him. All right, let's talk about some recent Aspen stuff now. Are you optimistic about Aspen's future, or you got some worries?
No, I am. I worry about some things that are very serious and don't get talked about. first of all, we have the best council we've had in the 35 years I've been here. We have bright, honest, dedicated guys, and Steve Scadron, the mayor, is trying his best.
Steve's been on my show. He's a good guy.
He's doing his best. But there are underlying things that I don't think they're addressing. Most of the problems that we have right now are not this council. They were the result of the prior councils.
Is there one politician that you think defined Aspen's growth in a bad way, or you think was a negative, that you can look back on?
Mick Ireland is a negative.
Why do you say that?
Because he had his own agenda.
He did have an agenda.
And it's a socialistic, he admits that, agenda that he was going to have poor people live next door to rich people, all this social engineering through the zoning code. Well, it's never worked. Zoning codes do not change the way a community works socially. So Mick, he did a lot of things. But secondly, he had he has no objective relationship to money. So, for example, we spent $5 million putting a tunnel under 82 out at the airport. You'll never see a person walk through that tunnel. It's not even at the corner. We spent $700,000 in front of Gorsuch at the Durant Street there.
Oh, that whole thing that was done last summer.
Yeah, and I thought,
what was that for?
Well, I thought it was snow melt. Well, they didn't even put snow melt in, and that's $700,000. We just spent $10 million on the bus terminal that looks uglier than the old bus terminal.
I got a buddy who comes in from England, and he says, "What's with these these bus stations?"
$10 million for that bus terminal. It looks like the old one. It's not as good looking. So the problem we have is that Mick didn't, these sales tax dollars are flowing in, and they spend them like crazy because they've never been in the private sector to, make a budget and make 1 and 1 come to 2. So you want $5 million for a tunnel here. We'll give you, now they're doing it at the airport.
And the lumberyard, what was that, 17,
they paid $18 million for the lumberyard for employee housing across the street from the airport.
It might have been worth $2 or $3 million at the time.
Yeah, no appraisal, by the way, when they closed. Now, there's no dishonesty in this. There's just people who don't have...
Mick is totally honest. Mick, in fairness to Mick, there are a lot of people in town who bought his socialist agenda, affordable housing. There's a lot of people who supported him. He didn't get elected on air.
Yeah.
But as I've told Mick, I've told you this a million times, your problem to me wasn't your political agenda. I didn't agree with it, but you were entitled to it. But it became divisive in Aspen. It was us against them.
Yeah.
And I think if Mick had it to do all over again, he might try to do it differently.
Well, yeah, the way he ran the meetings, he used to throw me out. Yeah. I'd get up to try to talk and, So he was difficult for the town, and he thinks he has done a lot of good things for the town, and he did some good things.
Yes, he did.
I have to think to come up with the list, but anyway, that's done. But we have to stop spending money. We have a lot of debt. There will be dark days in Aspen when the snow doesn't fall.
That's exactly my point. That we spend money like a college freshman with her daddy's credit card.
Yeah.
And and I always say to the people on council, right now Aspen's like the greatest place in the world. Maybe 10 years from now, it won't be so cool anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know how much our municipal budget is? More than $100 million, for a tiny little town.
6,000 people. Yeah, if it weren't for the Crowns, I think we'd be in real trouble because they spend their own money. They're not using city money or tax money, but we have to get a hold of the public projects. They're out of control. So, and then it's funny because we just had this base 2 community argument.
Talk about that, because I want to hear your perspective on it.
It's a very simple thing that nobody realizes what the problem was. The zoning code, they're laws. They're like you can't go up Main Street at 80 miles an hour. It's a speed law. Zoning is laws, and we're a nation of laws, not of men. So we're supposed to behave according to the law, the books in the zoning law. And when the community goes to sleep at night, they assume that the council is respecting that book and protecting the town from 10-story buildings or whatever. Well, guess what? There's a little sentence in there that nobody knows about that says that the what do they call this?
Planning commission.
Planning director that they're trying to hire now, the man just resigned. He has the power to change the zoning if he sees fit.
Unilaterally.
On any property, without a vote of council. He's not an elected official. Nobody even knows who he is. And that's what happened at Base 2. He changed all the zoning on that gas station corner for Hunt without the public realizing that he broke every zoning law. Height, setback, density, parking, and affordable housing. He broke them all single-handedly. Now, if that sentence weren't there, we wouldn't have gone through all this. Hunt would have had the zoning, and he can build a 6,000 square foot building on there. And
right, and that's what it was. I'm not opposed to Mark Hunt. I think we need developers in town. I'm all for Mark Hunt. What I'm opposed to is these one-off trades, horse trading, on every property that some reason why his mother, his psychiatrist said he needs this. It's all a lot of baloney. Get one municipal code.
Well, we have it.
But we keep making
No, it's that
variances.
sentence. It's the sentence. It's called a PUD, and I don't want to bore your
Planned unit
listeners.
development, right?
But with a planned unit development, you can break all the zoning laws. That man, that planning director, has the right to apply PUD to any property he wants to apply it to. Well, then you don't need a zoning book. He's a dictator, and that's
right.
what happened.
And I got to tell you, my own perspective of this affordable lodging thing was just stupid.
Yeah.
Because we actually need nice hotels in Aspen. People don't, I mean.
That's a myth. That's a Mick Ireland myth, that we need lower income hotel rooms. Well, there's 14 of them right now, and they're running 44% occupancy.
Right, they're empty because people want amenities. They want to go to a pool, a spa.
But that's that same socialistic, egalitarian mentality.
Yeah, the affordable restaurant that was the old Lucci's, remember?
Yeah.
I mean, it's empty. They never put a vent in it.
Well, they regulate the price of the food down there, and they regulate the price of the food at Little Annie's. I mean, the government does. Who ever heard of anything like this?
Yeah.
So we don't need cheaper hotel rooms that are little boxes. I own what's now the Sky Hotel, and they're really small rooms. And I was embarrassed to own it.
It's going to be
They were so
redeveloped,
small.
right?
Yeah.
And it's got a killer location.
And people hated those rooms.
Right.
You know, because they were so
They
small.
were tighter than the rusted lug nuts on a
Hunt's
54
rooms
Chevy.
are smaller.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just a psychological thing of some people on the council thinking they were convinced that we need low-price hotel rooms to bring middle-aged or young men and women here to Aspen. Well, they're already here. Go down today to the base of Ajax, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of 40, 42, 38-year-old people.
Yeah,
They're
professionals
funded. You know, trying to change society through a zoning code has failed ever since zoning was invented.
So we should have a unified zoning code that's good for Aspen is my predicate.
Right.
And we stick with that. And if somebody has some cock and bull story, let them take it down to Rifle somewhere.
Well, if you went to the hearings on the Hunt proposal, not one councilman asked, what is the present occupancy of our low-cost hotels? You don't think that would be the first question they should ask?
Yeah.
The hotels, the Little Nell, Jerome, and St. Regis only have 60-some% occupancy. The cheaper hotels are in the 40s. That mathematically says we don't need any more.
It doesn't work.
Well, we need more at Christmas and we need more at 4th of July. But do we really need more people at Christmas? And do we really need more people on the 4th of July? I don't think so.
No, we're already like jammed to the seams. There's no parking for sure.
Right.
And so we're just polluting, driving around.
So we need to
looking
get
for a
that
spot.
sentence out of that zoning code.
How do we get it out?
Well, get Steve Goldenberg and his gang.
Yeah, Steve's good. Steve worked very hard on base too. And Steve was right. He stopped me in the street and he said, look, if these people are going to come to an affordable hotel room, not going to come on a private jet, they're going to drive in, they got no parking.
Yeah.
He was right. It's like some of the stuff in this town, we're all passionate about Aspen, but some of the stuff is like common sense, which in this town is not all that common.
Well, you know, it's shocking that they voted 4-1 in favor of that, the council did, and they're 4 smart guys.
Yeah, but the electorate killed it.
Yeah.
Because the locals, I don't think the locals are necessarily anti-development. I think they're anti-stupid development.
Exactly.
And that was stupid development. I'll make a bet that if they do something nice up here, that it's all going to go, you know, up by Lift 1A.
Well, Jeff Gorsuch's project is super, and
Yeah.
guess what he's asking for? No changes. He's living by the zoning code.
There you go.
And it's a super project. It's great for Aspen. Mike Kaplan's going to put a new lift in and open up that whole side of the mountain. And it's all because of Mike Kaplan and Jeff Gorsuch, well, the Crown family.
Yeah. So what do you think about the high school? I know you've been very involved in making programs for the teachers to incentivize good teaching. And really, we have a great high school in Aspen. We really do. The public school is probably one of the best public schools in the state.
In the country.
But you've been very involved, so tell us about what your perspectives are on Aspen schools, on education in general, what we should do better, and how we should reward our best teachers.
Yeah. Well, I got involved long before I had Miles, my son. I never dreamed I'd be having a son in the school, but Tom Farrell was a superintendent. He's a great guy, 25 years ago, I guess. And I went to him. I owned the Aspen Club, and I thought about, I had 5 kids, and I remembered the 5 high school graduations where I had white knuckles all night wondering if my kids were going to get home. And I said, Tom, we should have the senior class graduation party at the Aspen Club, put all the kids in there, lock the doors, and let them play sports and rock and roll and dance, no drugs, no alcohol, and all the parents can sleep well.
And no driving home, exactly.
Over 2,500 parents have slept well since we did it, because the party is every year, and Michael Fox has honored it. So that's how I got started. And then we used to go to graduation. Our graduations are phenomenal here. And because I had a scholarship in honor of my daughter. But I watched and I noticed that, you know, there was the salutatorian, the valedictorian, the superintendent made a speech, all this going on, but nobody recognized all the teachers that were all sitting over here who worked 8 to 10 hours a day for 12 years to get that kid to 12th grade. Nobody even mentioned them. So that's when the bell went off in my head. So I designed a program that Tom and I worked on, Farrell, where we would give 15 school teachers who were working above and beyond the call of duty. And they would be chosen by the kids, not by me, not by the administration. And we would give them $10,000 each.
Wow, that's not insignificant for a teacher.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
they
big,
were making
big bump.
35 or 40,000. So we started the program, and I had a committee of parents and the kids, big committee, and they'd meet and they'd argue and fight, and I stayed out of it. And then at the final assemblies of the year, the superintendent would call the teachers up who won. Well, when I saw the kids come out of the seats and mob this teacher, like a basketball game, and I saw the teachers who didn't win hug and cry, the winners. There were no winners and losers, there were winners and hope to be winners. So,
and how long has that been going on?
Well, I pledged a 10-year program, and then Diana Serco became superintendent, and she didn't understand it. She didn't like it.
Why do you think she didn't like it?
Well, she's old school education. She said, Dick, we can't have winners and losers in our school system. I said, well, what do you do on Friday night football games? Do you tell your team not to win? Diana, I don't quite get this. You know, you have all these sporting things.
It's almost become shameful in our society to win. They give the kids a trophy that says participant.
Yeah.
You know.
So, but she went along, and then she saw what happened. And then she got ranked, the high school got ranked #1 in the state of Colorado. The school system did. The high school was 17th in the country or something like that.
Yeah, really high.
So she had a going away party for me, because I was anonymous. My name didn't surface. But she had all the past winners come for a coffee. And she said, he changed our schools. So it worked.
Yeah,
and coming from her was pretty fantastic.
I think everybody, to a certain extent, responds to incentive. We all do.
Well, I have a book this thick of letters that they all wrote, and she put it together in a book for me, of what that money meant to each teacher, and what they did with the money, how it changed their lives, how they took their kids to special places, how they paid tuition for advanced degrees. I can't read it. It makes you cry.
It may be that those teachers were exceptional to begin with, and this just was able to recognize them. But in my judgment, teachers are grossly underpaid. I mean, let's be honest. For what they do for our society, they're the least recognized people on earth.
There's two. The thing that the bell went off in my head, I said, you know what? We can do without everybody in this community. We don't need the mayor, we don't need Dick Butera, we don't need this, but we have to have great school teachers, and we have to have great hospital workers. Everybody else we can function without.
Pretty much.
And that's what motivated me to say we got to get better school teachers. Well, let me tell you, there's a lady named Kelly Shank. She won the award twice. And she's going to be honored next week by the schools. She had breast cancer and died. And what I learned from her and the motivation for me to go forward from her, it's unspeakable. Kelly Schenk taught in the middle school. She was by far the most popular, most credible, most qualified teacher in the system. All parents tried to get their kids into Kelly Schenk's classroom. So she won my award, and then 2 years later, the kids wanted her to win again. She won again. Then the kids every year wanted her to win, and she
she felt badly, huh?
No, she turned the money down. But here's the telling part of Kelly Schenk. In that period of time, she got breast cancer. So she's going to Denver for chemo, coming back, first teacher at school every day, and at the door of her classroom, she hugged each kid. What did you do for your mom last night?
Beautiful. So I know in my life, I can think of special mentors, people who helped me along the way to get where I am. We all need those mentors, and I like to say that every underdog movie has a mentor. If you look back, in The Karate Kid, you had Mr. Miyagi, and in Rocky, you had Burgess Meredith, and every underdog movie has a mentor. I had them. Is there someone in your life who you look back on and say, they really...
My dad.
Your dad. Tell us about him.
Oh, my God. We don't have enough time. I'll make it real short. My dad came here at 7 years old from Sicily without his mom, and couldn't speak English, and went to school in this little town in Pennsylvania. But the Irish kids would beat him up every day unless he gave them money. Well, finally, he was so skinny and ready to die that the hospital said to my grandmother, he has to get out of school. So he quit school at 4th grade. He then proceeded to memorize the dictionary, and he memorized the phonetic spelling so he would never have an accent. And he went from being in child labor to shining shoes to being a barber. On his 80th birthday, 300 people in a big dining room in Philadelphia. Joan Rivers was the MC.
Wow.
And they declared Harry Butera the citizen of the century. What he did in his life is beyond belief.
Yeah. And so but what do you think's the key to being a mentor? Did he encourage you? Did he criticize you? What's the way to get you to be where you
more
were?
than anything, I watched what he did for the community anonymously, by the way.
So actions speak louder than words.
And we don't have time to tell you everything, but they made him citizen of the century. And I had a hero. And I watched, he used to say to me when I was getting out of the Wharton School and I went to work for him, and he used to, when I'd make a mistake or do something that everything had to be perfect with him. But he always used to say to me, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. Now go back and do that over again.
Right.
And so the discipline, he's my hero. I'm a very lucky guy.
Well, we all need someone like that. Some of us are luckier than others. You obviously had an exceptional example.
It's interesting because in a way, Kelly Schenk is the same for me. It's a second mentor. I have such respect for school teachers. What they go through, the responsibility they have, the hours they put in. Miles's teacher, Mary Francis, right now. She's a saint.
And the influence they have on the kids. And I always ask the kids, and you get different answers. Who's more of an influence on you right now? Is it your parents? Is it the teachers or your peers? And depending on the age group, it switches.
Yeah.
But they all acknowledge that tripod exists in their life.
Yeah. Well, they spend 8 or 10 hours with the kids. How many parents spend that many hours a day with a kid?
I know. And if they are, they're on their iPad or something. It's, especially.
So I have maybe more than 2 mentors, but Kelly really affected my life.
Do you think, I like to ask guests this question towards the end of the show. There is no right or wrong answer, but you've had an amazing life. You're still young and vibrant and doing everything. Do you think there's a meaning to life? Do you think there's something that we should all think about while we're going through our days?
Well, there's a lot of conferences going on around Aspen with that very question, and all kinds of programs you can go to for the weekend and all that. But To me, I think learning to live in the present and learning to tell the truth are the two things that I hope my son.
To live in the present.
Live in the present. There's an old saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery. Today is a gift, and that's why we call it the present.
Live in the present is hard, because we're always looking back.
No,
or
it's
looking
not hard.
forward.
Sorry, it's new.
It's new.
Hard is lifting weights over your head.
Okay.
Learning to live in the present is new for all of us. But when you get there, it's the meaning of life. You really feel like you found it. And truth goes along with that.
Tell us about truth, because especially a lot of our politicians don't seem to have any connection to the truth at all. They fact check these men and women, and they half the stuff they say is they just make it up.
Well, I was deeply involved in politics in Pennsylvania, and everybody I worked for, I was a patriot. My dad was a proud American, and I am too. Right wing, left wing is not important to me. America is the greatest thing that's ever happened. And I thought I was making a difference by supporting and helping and working full time sometimes to get these people elected. But every time they got in office, I found out they weren't telling the truth. So I got very discouraged and stopped doing it. My brother ran for governor in Pennsylvania. He lost, but he lost because he told the truth. The guy that beat him didn't. And
I hope there's not a perverse lesson there.
Yeah, no, it's hard, and that's what I talk to Miles, my son, about all the time. I say, Miles, you can go a long way in life finding people that I dealt business with, or socially or otherwise, but I hope you'll never find anybody I lied to. And he won't.
That's a powerful thing. What would you like your Aspen legacy to be? You've been around this town since 1965 in one form or another. They asked Woody Allen what he'd like people to say about him when they walked past his coffin, and he said, "I'd like them to say, look, he's moving."
Yeah. No, I was anonymous until I was put into the Hall of Fame, and I got outed on all the things that I do around here because I don't want my name on a building. So it's hard. Male ego is a very dangerous and powerful thing.
Talk about that, because
as you get older, because when you're young, you have a lot of ego and a lot of things you do. I did the Jerome for ego. I'm not afraid to admit that. I was living here, and I thought, wow, I'll be a big shot.
This is Aspen. This is cool.
Yeah, but getting ahead of that on the curve is a lot of fun because I don't have that anymore. And to say, what do I want people to say about me is an ego-centric question, and would take an egocentric answer. So I'm not so sure I have an answer. Miles is dad.
Okay, that's probably the most important thing. As parents, it's the most important thing that we ever do anyway. And I don't think our children, and I talk about this with my wife sometimes, I don't think they have any idea how important it is for us that they come out, and it's the only job, being a parent, where you want the person to become better than you.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good
think
point.
about that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I have 5 older kids, and my daughter Tina just moved back to town, and she's a super painter and doing great things. And that's that's a very good point. You keep trying to make them better than what you were. Miles is already better than me, but
the interesting thing to me, Dick, is that there are so many people that I know that they sort of get competitive with their parents, and the father is like competitive. I can't even imagine it. Like, whatever my son does better than me, which is most things, he's a better tennis player, he's a better lawyer, he's a better a million things. I want it to be better than me in everything.
Yeah, but I happened to sit next to your son the other night at dinner, and he idolizes you.
It's very nice to hear. We have a good rapport. He did something for me which was, I can't tell you how much it meant. When he got married, he made me his best man.
Oh, wow.
Most guys don't do that. Most guys will pick their friend or their brother-in-law here. He made me his best man, which meant a lot.
That's it. You could die today.
Let's not get carried away.
No, but I'm saying that's a pretty special.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah.
Well, you're an amazing guest. It's just been a real privilege for me, but also for the entire Aspen community to hear your stories, because if we could have more generations of Buteras come through here and love Aspen the way you do, I think I would be highly confident in the future of this community.
Well, that's very flattering, and thank you. And there is another generation coming.
There is, Miles.
Thanks.
But you know, Miles, I hope you were watching how touched your father was when he talked about you, which to me was the most beautiful part of the show, because he loves you. When you're a parent, you love your children more than your own life, and that is the most special feeling in the world. So say hello to Dick in town. We will see you all next week.